Hello everybody, it is I, Noob Mister. We are here once again with the Game Time podcast where we talk and nobody listens. You know, all that fun stuff. And of course I am being joined by my good buddy Mike Said, as per usual.
Man!
Ouch. I think
I wasn't even facing the microphone that time.
Yeah, but I had my headphones turned up too loud, so I basically got an earful of mem.
Well, turn it down.
And I didn't actually start the timer. Now I have started the timer.
Get the timer!
Get the what?
I said start.
I thought that sounded like get the timer.
Oh,
You are confusing.
maybe I did. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to what was being said.
I'm sorry. What did you say? I wasn't paying attention.
Exactly.
But yes. Anyway, so Mikey boy, do you have anything you wish to discuss this week that the fine people can sit there and listen to and divulge in specific topics or anything?
Translation. Mikey, I haven't been thinking about anything. Can you be the wingman again? Okay, sure. I definitely can, my cute little friend. Yep.
Yeah, that's basically it. I'm just terrible with thinking. I do have some stuff to talk about, but I just want to know. Whoops, I hit my microphone again. I just want to know whether there's anything that you specifically want to talk about. You know, I might introduce the show, but you're first on the starting line, so off you go.
Well, Ghostface got released on Dead by Daylight, and as expected, he is already getting nerfed. Even though, yep.
I thought he was underpowered.
He was really underpowered the first time he came out in the PvP. So he was so underpowered, he was worse than Freddy, so they buffed him. And as a result, they nerfed him again.
Okay, so they decided, let's overcompensate, and then they decided, you know what, we've overcompensated too much, let's reel him back a little bit, shall we?
Granted, it is a small nerf, but it's a nerf nonetheless to a killer that may not be optimal to red ranks yet. We don't know because we haven't gotten there yet. True Talent seems to have almost done that, and he seems to still struggle here and there with the version that he was currently using, which was before the announced nerfs that were coming. And just like me and him, we're both thinking, is this really what you want, behavior? Take away the power roll.
Mm-hmm.
Still giving us only two viable killers, the Spirit and the Nurse. Because again, once you reach the red ranks, if you don't want to have a stressful time, you will need to play one of these two killers to have a chance of not having a stressful time, or deranking, or just having a bad... Especially considering how the ranking system's working right now. Some people don't give a shit, some people don't, but it's still a way... It's still basically the game saying, this is how we want you to play. And when you do, you realize the devs just really don't know what they want.
Kind of sounds to me like how World of Warcraft is probably still, I don't know, I haven't played it in years. The fact that it's just like, oh, you know, if you want to be this specific class, you have to run this specific set of skills, or this specific set of talents, or do this specific set of things. I know for a fact that they've changed the way that the talent system works in World of Warcraft now, so it's less about that sort of tree where it's like, oh, you know, put X amount of points into this and then Y amount of points into that. It's more like, here are a load of skills at set levels, just pick one and, you know, use that. So they have kind of streamlined it a bit, but it's still very much a case of, if you want to run a particular role or run a particular class, you have to go with these skills. So, this is just one thing I hate with MMOs, min-maxing. I just absolutely hate it because it doesn't allow me to experiment. If I want to run around using turrets, I want to run around using turrets because that's what I find fun. I don't care about optimizing. So, yeah.
And here's another, and again, more concerning about the whole thing with Dead by Daylight at this point. I can't believe I didn't really notice this, but even especially since, well, I'm not a developer or anything like that, but now that I think about it, of how they've been doing their things, I realize they're not doing it the right way. Think of it. They have a playable test build, and they gather data on that to determine if it should be nerfed or whatnot before it releases. But here's the thing: nobody takes it seriously, and you can't find random pugs. And when you because it takes forever, especially since it was only a killer base, everyone wants to try out the killer, not the survivor. So everyone else is just being guinea pigs, and they're not playing optimally. I mean, I've watched True Talent play it because there was no way I was going to bother with going through that shit. And they're gathering data based on this.
Mm.
And so we can't. So we need to try him out in the live, as True Talent basically put it. He makes a lot of points. You just watch his gameplays of Ghostface. He makes a lot of good, valid points that are a lot more clear than I'm trying to make them be. But I once left a comment basically saying that why is everyone acting like this is new? They've been doing this for years. Take this for example. Every killer that has gotten a little bit of a buff, but a major nerf later on, or the survivors get a big buff. For example, we had what was it? Oh yeah, we had decisive strike finally changed to when it's an anti-tunneling thing. So they took away the one thing that was ruining momentum. This seemed amazing. Finally, we could actually play it. Then Metal of Man showed up, the new DC, except instead of being the obsession and being picked up, get a free outing, or if you're the obsession, that is. Instead, it's regardless if you're the obsession or not, get hit 3 times, and then you're just invulnerable for the next hit. And believe me, that really fucks over the killer. I don't remember if it went through right now. Again, I haven't played the new build yet, but they changed it so that it was rewarded on unhooks and protections, which actually is a buff because that means they can unhook body block as they are supposed to, and they've got 2 stacks. So yeah, it's still the same thing.
Mm.
Uh, except it's
That's
buff.
just made me think about something, because you were
Ho-
mentioning about the fact that
Hold on though. Hold on though. I just realized, and here's what I mean that it's even worse than decisive strike. Because if you're not the obsession with decisive strike in the old build, you had to wiggle at least 30% to be able to use it, while as the obsession could do it immediately. Everyone could run this perk, and there'd be no downsides to not being the obsession. So everyone has 3 hits basically. It will end up that way. When it happens, you will feel it as the killer.
mm,
And yes, I'm very biased. I'm a killer main. I'm not going to deny that, but I'm not going to jump into the easy street of survivors.
is
And
playing
except
Survivors
more
really that easy then? Because I've always thought that looked like it was kind of hard by comparison.
third person of third person view versus Fallout 4 field of view first person. Big difference.
Hmm. Then again, you were talking about all of this stuff and the survivors getting an easy time. That actually reminded me of another game. I think it was called Nightmare the Last Year. It was a Discord
Oh yeah,
because the way that I think the way that they've done that is quite interesting, because the killer can sort of disappear and
I love
reappear.
that. I
Yeah, I
really
just
love
and the
that
fact
type
that
of
they've
thing.
got instant kill mechanics as well, depending on which killer you use. Like if you're using the guy
I
with the
loved the voice
axe.
acting from what I saw. That how they're very vocal and they spot out everything, just like Left 4 Dead. They
Yeah.
made sure that the characters were vocal, had a personality, and were helpful
Hmm.
in the vocal department.
And the way that the killer moves around in that game, it's very similar to how you spawn in as the specials in Left 4 Dead Versus, in the fact that you
Yeah,
can't be somewhere where the other players can see you. You have to be off screen. And like I said, with the instant kill, the one use instant kill bits that you have scattered around the map, you feel like the axe wielder. You know, you can like hide in a sort of like a skylight windowed thing and wait for a somebody to walk underneath, and you can basically just jump down and instant kill them, which I think is
yeah, but just
absolutely
like in Left, yeah,
yeah.
but just like in Left 4 Dead, they will come back very quickly
Mm,
in a way that basically you need to open the. Except the only difference in this case is that it's a timer-based thing trying to pry the door open rather than it being instant, just like in Left 4
Yeah.
Dead. Again, a
Although
lot of
when
good
it comes to that,
similarities.
when it does come to that bit, the killer does have a bit of an advantage on that because they know exactly where they're going to be going, and especially the guy that can set up traps and things. It. I will say in that situation, the killer does have a bit of an advantage, but at that point, you know, the
They're
surviving
supposed
group.
to. This is what behavior is worried about because it's like this is also why killers are still suffering. I know to many it would seem like I'm exaggerating at this point. I'm being another whiny killer meme, but here's the thing: survivors have been getting away with so much whining and have actually had their things, given to them by the developers, so that it's come become the norm. We can't stand up because it's literally one voice against four. We feel like the killer. We're one person against these four that know how to play optimally and whatnot. Not everyone's survival frenzy, yeah, sure, but I've still got my ass kicked at red ranks to people that weren't in comms. I could tell sometimes, but again, they were holding their own very easily, and I was Spirit. Spirit's the only high end killer that I can play. I can't do the nurse, but my goodness. And again, I've seen plenty of true talents. I've been trying to learn from him and whatnot, and I see him even struggling with the best killers, and he knows when they're playing optimally. He knows how to read them. He's pretty good at that. And again, the points that he's making up is pretty much the same things that I'm thinking here and there, only he vocalizes it better. But so many people play the survivors. It's easier, and they're getting a lot of things their own way. They've got these good perks, and we're getting ours slaughtered. Take the Legion, for example. Barely any perks synergize with him. And like for example, one that could synergize with him was Bloodhound, because he you can't see scratch much, but you can see blood. But they decided to make him relate to the spirit. The spirit can't see blood either, so blood magically disappears in Feral Frenzy, even though he's not going into a spirit world or anything. So there
Hmm.
goes another tracking synergy thing. And here's the thing: certain killers like the Legion existing is causing other things to be nerfed even further. Like when we were trying to find when he first came out, what they first came out, since apparently Legion's four killers, but even though you can only play one, so that's another lost opportunity there. Oh my goodness. Take Nurse's Calling for example. By within a certain meter range, if someone's healing within it, you can see their aura. And people wondering, even though mending isn't healing, it's still a healing action. Why is it not working? And Dev say, well, it's not a healing action. But how come then how come the doctors snap out of it is also considered a healing? Oh yeah, you're right. Hold on. Removes it. There you go. Now it's not considered as that. Fuck you, devs.
Seriously, it sounds like they're doing the Blizzard thing where everybody just started whining about. I don't know. I think it was like back in Wrath of the
And
Lich
there's no
King days where certain heroic dungeons were considered quote unquote too hard, and Blizzard just nerfed them into the floor so that it was just like literal face rolling through all of these dungeons. It was just so ridiculous.
and I can't remember if they've rolled out the dedicated servers or not, but even if they didn't, this still is a major thing. The killer is the host. The killer is the one that's gathering all these four together to play. If this keeps up, there's barely going to be any killers. I'm already looking to leaving. I was going to spend some actual money to get some iridescent shards or whatever it is, so I could get Ghostface and a bunch of these other little cosmetics I was thinking of, but another nerf. So we still don't have a third viable killer. And no, sorry, Billy is no longer a viable killer at this rate. The Spirit took over that. It was only the nurse and Billy at the time, but now Spirit has taken that over because Billy's just fallen to obscurity. Ghostface could have potentially been in front of Billy, not a third viable killer with the current build that we got to try in the buffed playable test build. We needed to get more tests and determine if he should perhaps just stay where he is, just be above average and close to red rank viable killer. But he's currently not, and he's going to end up just as worse now.
So it
True
sounds
Talent's
like
saying
they're
that, and I'm seeing it.
so it
I'm
sounds like
seeing
they're
it too.
trying to overcompensate or trying to only please one half of the fan base, and it's just again, it sounds like they're doing a Blizzard thing here. It sounds like they're trying to please one group of people, and
But if they don't end up going back on this and giving us a powerful ghost face, and then perhaps returning to the other killers that aren't viable enough, I'm worried that they're going to go to Nurse and, well, the Spirit next, and we're going to have no viable red rank killers. Because here's how it's been. I've been seeing it this way now. So we're going to be basically saying, would you hurry up and give us a third viable killer? At the moment, there's only Nurse and Spirit, and this is why. Oh, okay. Then suddenly, neither of them are viable. Now, probably Ghostface or this is now more viable, but just more viable because these other two are now just as worse. I'm sure that's going to happen at this rate because it's been happening again and again. Perks getting changed. Hell, if you look at the Ghostface Spotlight trailer, when it mentions one of his perks, in the playable test build, it was changed. Instead of it being outside of your terror radius, it's within a certain range. So immediately the whole Spotlight is out of date.
jeez Louise, consistency, please.
I'm all ears. That's the name of the perk. I'm all ears.
All right, I'm pretty sure that's probably a quote from the film. I mean,
Oh my
I've only
goodness.
seen the beginning of that film because we were doing it as like a film studies thing, and it was just like see how this scene plays out and how everything changes based on I think it was like the music, the atmosphere, and the way that the characters are reacting. Or I think it was more to do with the fact that because the actress be murdered first was Drew Barrymore, or that was the actress that was playing the first victim was Drew Barrymore. It's like you've got this huge like AAA actress in your film, and you kill her off within like the first 10 minutes. It was sort of like a weird thing to pull off in a film like that. But and anyway, that's sort of a different topic altogether. And I can't really remember a lot of my film studies thing because that was like, oh, how many years ago was it now? We're probably talking 12 to 14 years ago. I can't remember anything I learnt from back then. I just stick with what I know now, which is very little. So, yeah, any more angry ramblings that you want to talk about with regards to Dead by Daylight, or was that kind of all you had?
Nah, I'm pretty much just gonna say I'm glad I'm gonna be dressing up as the movie Ghostface, not the Dead by Daylight Ghostface. Speaking of which, me and my mom just recently got the material we thought we could use to make the costume. Mom's confident that she can make the whole overalls, the hoodie and everything, and even the sewn-on gloves. The material is currently sitting in my spare room, and the elastic for the glove part, and the Velcro for the hoodie.
Now all you need to do is just put some ears on it and give it a tail, and it's a furry version!
Although now you've got me curious. How would you change Ghostface, well, face to look like a furry?
That's a good question. Maybe just
Because
sort
it's
of.
not because it's not really based off of a skull or anything. The mask is kind of based off of the Scream picture. You know,
I
the
think that was kind. Yeah, that. Unless it was meant to be more like a ghost or something?
well, yeah, but again, I believe the creator of the mask said it was meant to kind of it took inspiration from it.
Because I was just thinking, if somebody was going to do like a ghost faced furry thing, I honestly would have said make it sort of like a half mask so it's only covering the top, but then the killer's like shaved off the bottom, shaved off all the fur on the bottom of their face. So it just kind of looks a bit creepy and crinkly, and it's meant to be furry, but it's like skin, and it's unnatural for a furry to do that kind of thing, and kind of like how people find hairless cats kind of creepy. That kind of thing.
Mm. Oh, well. I'm gonna
Um,
cross that off the list.
yep.
Ghostface nerves.
Yeah, we were mentioning MMOs earlier, and just a random bit of news. Guild Wars 2 has had a new raid dungeon put in. It's meant to be sort of a continuation of the story that followed from the from the previous one. You're supposed to be going to somewhere called the Hidden City. I don't know. I don't follow Guild Wars 2 lore all that much, so it's got something to do with the Jinn and the Elementals, I think. And they also announced that the Pinata Festival's coming back, aka Dragon Bash. They're actually bringing
Yeah.
that back.
Let's see what they do to make it more fun.
Well, apparently this time around it's actually being held in Holbreck, so it's not being held in Lion's Arch. I almost said Dragon's Arch there for a second, but that would be an interesting name for a town or a city. Dragon's Arch. Maybe that'd be like an alternate universe thing.
Well, we are, well, I believe in the current time that we are up to right now, we are a part of an old, a new guild called Dragon's Watch.
That's true. I wouldn't be too surprised if Bram had something to do with all of this. And considering that 3 elder dragons have now been taken care of.
Wait, Bram?
Bram, you know.
Bram's the Norn, right?
Yeah, Bram's the Norn. Just the
No,
son of Esther Culkin.
No, because what I remember, at least when I played that part of the story where your character comes up with the name, he's pissed about that.
Yeah, because he wants to do the whole thing with. He wants to carry on.
His mother's legacy, right?
Yeah, because he's still upset about his mum dying during. Does this technically count as spoilers?
Nah, it's like it's almost like Star Wars or something at this point. Okay, that's not a good example, but if you're not playing the game or if you have been playing the game and you haven't gotten past that point, where the hell have you been? You deserve to be spoiled at this point.
Yeah, because I mean, that expansion came out like how many years ago now? Was it like 3, maybe 4 at this point?
No, don't care.
You've had more than enough time to be able to catch up, but yeah.
And though I do have a question, I think that it was probably a branching path or something I could have done to figure out. But what happened to Bram's hair in the Heart of Thorns? Because I only remember reuniting with him and the others, with Tommy and them, and Tommy says, "Oh, Bram, you're bald. I don't want to talk about it."
I don't know why he did that either. So I'm not 100% sure.
I don't know if something happened to him and he somehow lost it, or if he cut it off. I mean, for all we know, it could be something like I don't know. I don't know Asian culture, but it's like how, like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, when Zuko and Iroh were now outcasts, they cut off their ponytails or whatever they're specifically called. Do you know anything about that? It could be something similar to
I don't know. It might be something symbolic. It might be him showing that he's in a state of mourning or something, or he's doing it out of a sign of respect or something. I'm not 100% sure. I've not actually looked into that because I've been going through so much of the Living World stuff recently, and just seeing him bald is just like, yeah, Bram's bald. It didn't really
for all I know, it could be something like he kept his hair like that for his mom or something. I don't know, and shaving it off is him letting go and starting to grow anew, even though he remains bald throughout.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guess that could be kind of a symbolic thing, or it might have something to do with the new elite specialization that came out with the expansion, because you probably noticed that a lot of characters in the game started migrating over to being like doing things with their elite specialization. Like Bram started using a bow because that was what Guardians could then use, and I think some of the other characters did that as well. But Bram was the standout.
He had some skins that were for the bow too. And speaking of which, as much as I got pissy about this when I came back to Guild Wars 2 and was reminded that not all the cosmetics can be just bought whenever you want, they rotate around weekly, I think. I really fucking love how over the top and just detailed they get with their cosmetics. Granted, when I look at it, with Guild Wars 2, it's like, it's really beautiful and highly detailed, and that can sometimes be a downside. It's like when you're fighting that Asura boss. I think you're the one that showed me the picture that there was this Asura boss or something, and there was just all these effects and everything going off everywhere. And there was a screenshot, and there was a text of someone saying, "When she points her arm up, you're supposed to dodge." And someone says, "How the fuck am I supposed to see that?"
Oh, that was one of the that was one of the places in Ore. I think it was one of the temples. There's a particular. I think it was the Malkor's Leap or something. There was one of the temple bosses up there where when she raises her hand or something.
Play classes like warrior optimally because I'm playing in an American server and every millisecond counts with how I want to play. I want to be all stuns and timing, but I can't time it if my controls are delayed and I'm not in sync with the
Oh,
server as
you're
well as
going.
I
Then you
could
would
be.
absolutely. I'm saying love in a sarcastic way here. You would absolutely love one of the bosses that turns up in one of the newer fractals, because she has this phase where she keeps switching between all the different human gods, and before she does when she gets
Wait,
to
wait,
the
wait,
end
wait.
of
Is this the one? Yeah, this is the one with the where you have to race towards the end, right? For these different bosses, you pick a route, and it all eventually leads to this giant Anubis undead mummy looking like thing.
No, this is Twilight Oasis. This is one of the Fractals of the
Oh, okay.
Mists dungeons.
Oh,
There's a
fractals. Sorry,
there's a
I thought it
there's a
was one of the
boss
old ones.
right at
Old.
the end, and like I said, she changes between all of the different gods that the humans worship, and at the end of every sort of like particular. Or once you've taken her health down by a certain amount, she then teleports to the middle, and it is basically just a massive CC race because you need to stun her before she finishes casting a spell and knocks everybody down. And I think she basically regens all the health she just lost. So
Hmm.
you've got to be quick with that. And like I said, it is just a massive CC race. So you've got to keep every sort of crowd control ability that you have for that one specific phase. So if it's like you, where you've got nothing
That
but
reminds
CC
me.
abilities, you're pretty much going to be
Speaking of
sitting there
CC
just
and
using
bosses,
weapon abilities the whole time.
speaking of CC and bosses, I forget. Were you around during the old how the old bosses used to
Oh,
function
you
when it
mean
came
where it
to
was like they had stacks
they
of
had
things and you had
stacks,
to
yeah,
knock
stacks of
those
shield,
off?
and once it reaches zero, it was like, okay, now I'll allow you to do whatever stun or thing you do for just this attack. Instead of it actually being you have broken this character now, they are stunned or staggered or slowed and are now more vulnerable to general damage.
Yeah, and then the bar goes back up, and then they're immune to CC, or the bar doesn't get affected until after it
It's
reaches
full.
back to full, and then it starts going back down again. Or in some cases where bosses are or enemies are like completely immune, but then there will be certain attacks or phases where they will become vulnerable for a very brief period of time, and you have to take advantage of that.
I really like how they did that.
Yeah, it's just as well they changed that because I think it was your brother did that video on it and complained about how that function was working. But the way that
Yeah,
this has changed now is just so good because it makes sense. Instead of just
it
making
makes
them
sense.
completely yes, okay. Instead of just making them completely immune and unable to be stunned or controlled in any way, it's just yeah, we will allow these effects will just allow you to knock the bar off. It's also interesting to note that things like blind, cripple, and immobilize also affect that as well. It's only like very, very slight, or it makes it the bar go down very, very slowly depending on how many are on there. But
Speaking of which,
that
I'm
does
glad that
affect it.
it tells you if the condition is actually doing anything or not. Like if
Yeah,
it's
because
grayed, if
it
it's
sits
completely
there
grayed
and
out, it
flashes
means it's not
grey.
being affected.
Yeah, or it
But
means you're
it's there
unaffected by
anyway
it.
in case, like, if you're using something that like does more damage the more conditions are on, it counts. But if it's grayed out, it means it's not being affected. If it's blinking, then it means it's partially being affected, but it's not to its optimal.
Hmm.
Like for example, if you did it to like someone with a mount, if you crippled them, it would be grayed out, meaning it's well not doing the cripple thing, but you've got it there, and it could be. And if it was a boss, for example, it would be whittling down the bar slowly. It's like a bleed effect.
Hmm. Yeah, there are just so many things that I feel like Guild Wars 2 does better than a lot of other MMOs, but there are just some things that are just I just even though I don't really didn't really like it at one point, now that it's not in Guild Wars 2, I have to say I miss the Holy Trinity because it actually makes you feel like that the group has some sort of structure to it and that there is some sort of strategy to actually beating some types of bosses rather than just sitting there whacking your face against it until the boss falls over.
I know how you feel there. But what I'm pissed about, unfortunately, and this is why I can't. Again, it's just like me with other games. There's all these classes, all these characters, but I seem to only find, if I find any at all, I usually only find one or two I even click with. But there's always just the one I seem to be the most optimal with, and the Necromancer seems to be that. But I'm more of a minion build, and that's only good in PVE, PvP, or raids or whatnot. I'll be kicked out of the group because they know that that's not going to be optimal. I need to be doing more damage. I need to be doing this or that. I need to going full minion build or full this is you need to mix a bit of everything. I can't do that. I want to be minion build, but I want to be able to build a minion build that works, but you've only got like hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minions, one healer minion and one elite minion. That's about it. I don't really have any other options. It's not flexible enough for me to have the right set of minions for this thing or whatnot. I I just need to not use minions because they don't do much compared to other things that I might be using better off. But I hate being a one man army thing. I want to be a one man leading an army. I've been always thirsty for a game that allowed that, and it used to be Warframe. I don't want to. What was it
I
called?
think we talked about this last week as
Yes,
well.
yes, yes. And it was Diablo and this other game that's pretty much like Diablo but free to play. But I've already been there and I know, but it's just it's not the same for me. I really loved Warframe because it had all that freedom and everything, the fast-paced jumping about, shooting, and my minions don't run up in melee. They shoot. It's like again like an onslaught, but even that was taken away. Uh,
Yeah, like I said,
I still thirst for
I
that.
still have this idea floating around in my head where you can create any viable build you want, and summoning tons and tons of minions is one of them. But unfortunately, I
Uh,
have absolutely zero coding skills, zero modeling. Well, I do have a little bit of coding skill, but it's not enough to make something like that. And I just wouldn't know anybody who would just be interested on just picking up an idea. Because that's just not how, well, really just how the game industry works. Because ideas are cheap. Actually being able to show people that your concept works with a prototype, that's how you get in, because that's how you sell an idea. You don't just tell somebody about an idea, you show somebody how your idea could work. That's how it all works, or at least that's how I've always been told it works. So
and I'm looking forward to being able to show my ideas and visions and stories soon because, again, as I've told you before, not to the streamers, but sorry to the followers here, but sorry, viewers, fucking Christ, get your head in the game. But Warfare Machine is currently working on the armor set for my Sona here, so I'll finally be able to put him in the sci-fi setting as he's supposed to be in. Because again, with him just wearing a jacket and all, he just looks like another generic furry, and he still is. Yeah, I will admit, just him being sci-fi isn't doesn't make him not generic, but that's the atmosphere he's supposed to be. It's the difference between having a character in a modern setting when he is supposed to be in a fantasy slash medieval setting with swords and shields and all that,
mhm.
not these trench coats or uh, and sci-fi stuff if it were set in the future or anything. It's out of its era. It's out of its setting, its atmosphere that it's supposed to have around it.
Hmm.
And so mine is like, again, think like Mass Effect.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Even when Shepard wasn't in missions, he was still wearing something that looked like he was, you know, within that environment, as it were.
Well, I'm not talking about Shepard as a character, but I mean by Kelly being around such cities or towns or space stations or on ships in general. And when you look around, you know, no matter where you look, you know you're always in a sci-fi fantasy, and there are all these different. There's not just humans. There's all these other different creatures.
Hmm.
And again, that's a type of environment I've always wanted to keep Kelly in. And when characters like, for example, Kira that I did that animation for came out, I was able to do an animation giving you pretty much an idea of what kind of atmosphere I like to soak myself in. And again,
And other things you enjoy soaking yourself in. Ha ha ha! Innuendos! I've now been demonetized.
and I'm just so glad I'm finally going to be able to put him in that. I'm not sure if I'm going to be getting his gun. Well, I'll see if Warfare Machine's willing to do that as well. If he charges extra, I'm fine with that. But I'm just concerned if he's even going to let me do that or not, or if I'm going to have to wait in line again.
Hmm.
He's a nice guy, but I don't want to overload him.
Yeah.
And again, have I shown you what the armor looks like so far?
I think you did. You showed me the sort of visor that had the night vision or anti-flashbang shield thing on it.
Okay, so it was just the helmet part. Okay, he's done a lot more. Hold on just a second. But you go ahead and say something while I quickly grab it. Won't take long.
Okay, so while I'm thinking about stuff, I came up with the most random possible idea the other day. A card game about Let's Players. So yeah, that was something I came up with, and the funny thing was, I was just sitting there thinking, that could make quite an interesting card game. And then the next thing I know, I'm sitting here designing decks or coming up with ideas for decks around specific Let's Player types. You know, I came up with one that was basically just. I came up with a deck that was effectively just Jacksepticeye, Markiplier, PewDiePie, and DSP. I'm just sitting there thinking, where am I going with this exactly? Am I just trying to make this just a massive reference game or something? That's just like, oh, this is effectively this YouTuber, it's effectively that YouTuber, it's that Twitch streamer, it's this Twitch streamer, and
Say like he had a card of a particular type of follower, not a channel, but a follower type, a band or something, and they are easily distracted by certain controversies. You put down a DSP tries it card, and they'll be aggroed to that instead of the other stuff.
that's an interesting idea. I never thought of trying to have followers like that. I just sort of pictured that when you gain a follower, that it's just like a counter or a token or something. I never actually thought about having followers as a type of card. But then again, I also came up with an idea of having equipment cards or something. Where, you know, when you sort of have a card in your hand that's just like, you know, pay this amount and then you gain that piece of equipment and it has this bonus effect or something.
Speaking of equipment, there you go. There was the 3 pictures I was given recently of the progress of the armor so far.
Yeah, doesn't have any trousers yet though.
Nope, he hasn't gotten to that yet. He hasn't even finished the gloves.
It's just that you showed me that bottom image there, and it was just, he's not wearing any pants. He's got McDougal. You've got no trousers. What are your trousers?
Speaking of which, you're reminding me of that moment from the traitor in Hellboy 2. The guy that literally the I don't know what he is, a goblin or something, but he literally has no legs. He's attached to a little cart thing, and he has a bunch of stuff in the back. He has that accent. He says, "Him I know. Trade me something, and I'll take you to him." And says, "I got the shiny belt," and he goes, "But I have no pants." And I'm glad he's not a fool or anything. He said, "What about these magical eyes? I already have binoculars."
You already have an Oculus. Why was he getting into VR before everybody else was?
I said binoculars, not Oculus.
Oh, binoculars. Was he actually literally trying to give him another pair of binoculars, or were they literally a pair of magic eyes that were like?
They were just binoculars. She just worded it like that way, in the way that she thought he didn't have much intelligence.
Oh, she obviously thought that he wasn't aware what a set of binoculars were.
It's funny though. He is not a fool, but he does have certain basic needs here and there. Because, for example, after that whole thing, he then realizes But I do see something I like. Something shiny underneath the bandages. I want that. He just wants something shiny.
So basically,
He already has the
he's a
binoculars.
script, basically. Ooh, shiny.
He has all this stuff. He knows he can't wear a belt. He knows that he already has binoculars. He's not fooled by those. But he definitely wants that shiny something there.
Seriously,
He knows what he wants, but he doesn't. But he knows certain things, and he's not dumb. But he does have basic needs, and when he's asphyxiated with something, he knows he wants it. So I want that shiny thing under the bandages.
well, what was the shiny thing under the bandages?
Oh well, in the movie there was I forgot what his name, but he stabbed Hellboy in the chest with this spear, and snapped off the head, and the spear grew back the head, but the shard of the blade was stuck inside him, and every time when he tries to pull it, or if anything goes near it, it draws closer and closer to his heart.
Oh,
So yeah, she freaks out and basically saying, "No, you can't remove it, not without killing him." And he thinks, "Oh, maybe I know someone who can. Will you trade me then?" So that's how they got the whole trade thing. Okay, very well. You
very
should see
well.
the movie Hellboy 2. Hellboy 2. Don't see the new Hellboy though.
Why was the new Hellboy not that good?
Nah. That's all I'm gonna say. Just nah. Hell, just see Angry Joe's review on it.
But I hear that there was a shape-shifting leopard guy in it.
Yeah, he'll talk about that.
I thought that bit was cool. Then again, I'm
Yeah,
into
maybe.
then again I'm into TF stuff. So hey, I just announced
And no,
another
he's
fetish
not.
on. I've just announced another fetish on the podcast. Hey, more demonetization.
Yeah,
Fuck you.
clarification. He's talking about a fetish. Transformation, not Team Fortress.
Yes.
Okay. Um, but yeah, maybe, but still, is that going to be enough to hold the rest of it together?
Mm. Mm.
Plus, I'm sorry, but when I didn't think I was going to like this, even if it was probably decent. But the moment I saw the Hellboy, I didn't like how he looked
He looked
because
a bit skinny, I thought.
and he looked rugged in the face. I don't know how to describe it. He just didn't look attractive face wise. I mean, granted, he's supposed to look a little younger in the comics. And when we first got the first live action Hellboy, some as the actor said, there were some of these teenagers who were big fans of Hellboy that seemed, as he put it, crestfallen when they saw they're like, oh, this guy's old and all that. But now that I compare him to the new one, I'm like, oh, I don't know why. That guy looks older and less attractive to me, face wise. I don't know why. Maybe it's the makeup artist. I don't know. I just couldn't stand looking at
It
it.
must have just been differences in styles and probably technology as well, because I don't know when the first two Hellboys came out. How many Hellboys movies were there beforehand? I don't know. All that I know is that there were
I
two
think
of
there were
them.
only two, I believe, and then there were the animated versions from the comics.
Yeah, well, I can't remember
And
when
yeah,
those two Hellboy movies came out, but I'm guessing it was like pre 2010s, I think. So it
yeah.
must
Take
have
this
just.
for example. Yeah, to take this for example, I'm gonna send you two images real quickly of Wait, no, even better. There's this comparison right here that I'll just send. Give
Mm-hmm.
me a moment.
Your moment has been had. I am still waiting. I feel betrayed. You've betrayed me. I'm, I'm just so faint from the betrayal. I need to go lie down and get over this
Okay,
betrayal of the fact that you said one moment and it was longer than a moment. Oh dear, dear, dear.
and here you go. The first one is
Yeah, there's definitely something wrong with that one.
maybe it's the scar makeup they put on him, but uh, yeah, I don't know. It's just
I will admit with you, it might just be the fact that I'm old and I just like older things, but I definitely like the original Hellboy look. The other one just looks like they just went.
maybe it's because yeah, maybe it is also because they kind of groomed the movie one compared to this one. Because granted, he does look more rugged, and maybe that's the point. I mean, look, his hair is a little bit more all over the place. It's not as neat and tidy. The parts where his horns stick out look a little rough there, like they've just stuck out or something. And he has scars as he would being all in all this shit. But again, admittedly, yeah, the movie Hellboy here, this one, the first one right here, it's not overly neat, but I get it. But unfortunately, it is the reason why I prefer this one over. Plus, hearing the voice back to back, I forget the actor's name. He's even a playable character in Payday 2, but I just immediately prefer him over this guy.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I mean, I've never seen either of the Hellboy or any of the Hellboy movies, but just looking at these two pictures by comparison, I definitely prefer the guy from the original two films. There's just something about the way he looks that's just more appealing than the than the raisin. The other guy, the newer one, just looks like a fucking raisin. I'm sorry, it's just all those. It's just like they went too far with the detail, and now he just looks like a fucking raisin
And
with heat
even
stroke.
and even though obviously he has the newer one has scars, it's not like that the first live action movie one didn't give him, battle image. Like for example, here's where he's been hit a few times by Samael, and as you can see, he's even bleeding a bit here.
Yeah, but he still looks way better than the other than the sunstroked raisin that is that is the current version.
And again, I haven't seen much of the I've barely seen anything of the new one. I do remember though that, especially right here, right now, if you're wondering what the hell he's holding, he he has a very, very, very soft spot for cats, and so there were some kittens there in that box, and so he went to protect them, and immediately, as again, Samael tries to attack, and he's like, "Fuck off! You're not touching them." Well, actually, the line that he said right here says, second date, no tongue," and then that's when he throws him. I even like his nonchalant replies now and then. Like, for example, when he said when he finds the script or something about Samael, and then Samael's just up there above him, and he just looks up. His facial expression doesn't change. He's just simply staring there for a second, and he says, "Didn't I kill you already?"
That sort of nonchalant, sort of non-reactionary thing. Somebody was talking about that on Twitter, and they were just like, "Oh, I really hate it when people do like." And I was just like, because they were complaining about it not being being very comedic or anything, and a lot of people were just like, I disagree. It really does depend on the timing, and I'm just like, I love moments like that where somebody just sort of looks at something and just goes, I'm really not bothered by this, so you're just trying too hard.
Yeah, and also I really love how he has a bit of a stormtrooper aim, but he admits this at the first encounter. Like when Samael, or as he calls Sammy, jumps down after eating a guard, he says, "Listen, Sammy, I'm not much of a shot here, but this Magnum here uses really big bullets. So why don't we just work this out, nice, peaceful?" And it takes off. Oh crap! And he starts shooting.
And I'm guessing promptly blows holes in him.
Yeah, it was. I believe it was the third or fourth shot he finally landed. So yeah, he wasn't lying. He's not that much of a good shot. Plus, he has to be left-handed. Since
He's
his
carrying
other
a box of kittens.
no. This is the second encounter. I'm talking
Oh.
about the first encounter. But yeah, his right fist is basically a stone fist.
Oh, so
So
he
he
obviously
can't
can't
wield the
hold. So he
Magnum.
can't really hold guns in his right hand.
Yeah, but I'd imagine he is more of a left-handed person because he has to be. Because a large majority of things that most humans would interact with, well, his fist is way too big. And
Yeah.
again, it's not his hand inside of a stone fist. The stone is his fist.
What is it? Sort of like almost a prosthetic thing for him, or is it just that his right
All I do
arm
know is that
hand
it was
is?
part of it. All I do know it was also literally part of a key to start the whole what I was going to say Ragnarok, but I don't. But that's Norse mythology, isn't it? It means the same thing, but basically doomsday.
So his fist can cause doomsday.
Yes, it can bring about the doom of the entire planet because he is he is a demon. He's from hell. He can bring hell. If I remember, his actual name was um, Adam Unrama.
If you say that 20 times, he appears before you and kills you. No, sorry, I'm thinking of Bloody Mary, and that's when you say it 3 times into a
Speaking of
mirror.
speaking of Bloody Mary, if I could just switch to a different topic here for a short moment. And I know that Telltale's is disbanded, but I really, again, I the only Telltale game I really loved from them was Wolf Among Us, and I really loved Bloody Mary's intro, and I love how she introduces herself. Um, like
I've played it, but I
she
can't remember.
tries.
All the only line I can remember from her is just, can you? It's just it's always amusing when you get some teenage slumber partying teenagers do it, and the looks
Yeah,
on their
that's the part I
faces.
was going to. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It again, she tries to get one of the henchmen to introduce her, but they're either idiots or they're a little bit too scared to utter her name. But then she just says Bloody Mary, and you know why they call me that? Because these teenagers they like to have their little sleepovers and find it funny to say my name 5 times in the mirror. They find it less funny when I actually do show up and feed their organs to the family dog. And I do that as a hobby because I love it. Do you understand? I love my job. Something along the lines of that. And yes, she actually does says, but she keeps that I'm gonna kill you expression. So she's nonchalant. She doesn't give a shit, and she
Yeah,
just enjoys this. She doesn't care if she looks like a
there's like the whole fight with her clones after that, and
yeah, mirrors, reflections. I
mm,
do like how they did that. And the sound of breaking glass, again, I love how they made her
it's
intimidating.
just that noise though. It's just like, oh, it's almost like teeth grindingly that kind of thing.
Oh, another subject I'd like to switch to because I think we're running out of time, but I really want to talk about this because I just experienced it. I
Hmm.
was going to try it out again, but I tripped on a cable, and by the time I thought of starting it up again, I was hungry and I decided to make myself nuggets, and that's when you messaged me. I was streaming with Secrace at the time. I tried out this free VR game. Jesus Christ, sorry about
Hold your
that.
breath. Drink a glass of water upside down. Boo! Did that work?
Called Shattered Lights. It's a room space VR game, which means there's no locomotion. You have to physically walk around your play space. It has these settings to make it possible, even if you don't have the room. And how this one does it, there's two ways to do that. Either by it reshapes the whole map so it's to your room scale, or it accelerates how far you go when you move, which can be disorienting, but it allows you to play it. um I can't turn it on because apparently I'm above the minimum requirements.
Hmm.
And oh, god damn it. I'm usually strong with horror games, but this one was really getting to me not only because it's VR, because Van no, it wasn't Vanishing Realms. What am I thinking of? No, uh
I
Dread Holes does make me breathe heavily, panic, sometimes shut down or scream. I will admit it because I'm front and center there. But this one was just as worse as that game because I have to physically move about, and that actually immersed me even more. Granted, my immersion was kind of broken because when I go near the walls where I'm supposed to move around, my chaperone does pop up. But I just turned down the opacity of them, and I'm like, dear fucking god. And plus, it's psychological horror, which kind of works this way because how the way they make it, you move around this one room, go down on the elevator, and do the same thing. But then the third level, you basically go around this small corner, and it's really tight. And when you get to the other side, instead of the door being on the other side that you couldn't open, it's just more hallway. Then you go down, turn, and then there's another curve. So the map is literally changing and moving as you go around to either fuck with your mind, or it's just its way of saying, okay, you're kind of exploring a maze here to go around. We're just going to change the map so you don't have to leave your play space. Not once do you leave your play space.
hmm.
You skim around inside or outside, and it's basically a box changing and moving its walls and loading parts of the map as you go through. Like after I went a few circles a few times and then opened this door, there was this long drop, and it was a small little. You know those action movies, like say like not action movie, action games where your character like skims across this very narrow, like you just need to be up against, pinned to the wall, skip, slide to the other side without falling forward. I had to literally do that, and I didn't have much room. Not only was the my actual wall in front of me, but if I were to move forward any further, I'd fall. And what's worse, halfway through it, I could hear a creaking, and then the heartbeat started. And I don't know if it was scripted or if it was actually timed, but I started hurrying up, and about 1 second after I got off, I heard it fall. And then the next level, I unfortunately failed because I kind of panicked and shut down. There was something on this other side of this barricade, and the music and heartbeat was getting louder, and the lights were slowly going out. I thought I was supposed to hide, and then I realized, oh fuck, I'm in a timed event, and I just fucked up, didn't I? And I was going to look around, but I shut down. I actually shut down, and I just couldn't move. And then when the last light went out, hands came around my vision and just grabbed me, and game over.
Jeez Louise. I probably would have gone straight into the fetal position at that point, sitting there shaking and quivering, being like, I don't want to play this game no more!
Yeah,
This isn't
so after
fun!
after we're done with the Dungeons and Dragons, or if we've still got time, you know what? I want to show you that straight after this podcast. I don't care what you say. I'd like to have your company, and apparently it's pretty short. I think I was at the halfway point, but I stopped because I accidentally stepped on my system and pulled out the power cable. When I put it back on, I teleported inside a wall, and I couldn't go outside because when I tried to go back where I was supposed to be, it was saying return here. You're trying to clip through a wall, but there's literally nothing here. This is a part of the map that is all blank here because I'm in the outer works of it. I'm not supposed to be here. Well, I don't know, but you couldn't have gotten through here without getting a legitimate means, and the only way is back through here, but there's no legitimate means, so I'm not letting you go through. And there's no menu system. You have to play through the game or not at all. So there was no
Yeah.
pause or reset. I had to just quit the game and come back in. It's a free game.
So, understandable in that regards.
All out shelter.
But yeah, we will definitely have to do that after the podcast because
Look it up.
it's I would say that's probably about enough. So yeah, anything last minute you want to add just before we finish up? Anything at all?
Yeah.
That apparently. Okay then. He just wanted a drink of water. So, yeah, that is the end of the podcast. So, thank you everybody for listening, watching, or picking your nose, scratching your bum, or doing whatever you do while you're
Okay,
enjoying this.
that was actually scary. You literally said that just as I scratched my nose. Granted, I wasn't picking it, but I was close to it, okay? My
I
fingernails were
didn't know you were doing that. I just said the first thing that came to the top of my head, alright?
I had an itch, and I was like, "Nyeh," or picking your nose, and I was like, I froze there for a second, like, okay, I know you're not psychic, but that was scary.
That was just a coincidence. Like, a massive, massive coincidence. I just said that, so. Yeah. Anyway, folks, thank you for listening, and as always, Heavy Weapons Guy says.
Okay, enough.